versus getting good enough design up and running to get us onto this, get this website converted over to HubSpot. And I guess where, I'm not 100% clear on everything that happened before when I wasn't involved in those first, few weeks of the calls, but it kind of feels like we're steering a little bit more towards kind of wholesale redesign of the site versus get the components kind of up and running so we can get this site on HubSpot. And so I think I want to make sure we keep it balanced, because when I know what Carrie saw and what we saw with the examples that you were doing, there were a lot of pieces of what you showed in the examples with micro animations and kind of a lot of those sorts of things that we really liked and wanted to try to add to the site to enhance. But I'm trying to make sure we don't go too far in just making this like a really radical redesign of the site, because A, that's not what we're in position to do right now. B, we're annoyingly picky about that kind of thing. And that would take a lot more time for us to go that way. And I kind of felt like we were steering that direction. And then like when we went and kind of had you make those adjustments to the blog and the resource page just to kind of get that cleaned up, because those were the pages on HubSpot, I guess there's a couple red flags for me on some details, design details that were missed that kind of made me a little bit nervous. And so I just wanted to because I'm looking at the webinars page, and we talked a little, we had to go over a couple weeks to say, no, make it look like the existing site. And then I felt like some of the stuff was spot on. And then there were other design decisions that were either just missed or just didn't look like anything, weird drop shadows, big rounded corners. I think like some of those thumbnail images that are like squished, I know that like from my background, as a designer, I would never, ever, ever put that in front of a client ever under no circumstance. I would just, find a way to design around it or, just do something. And so I think it's those some of those little details that are things that are really important to us that are kind of what we would consider basic, this isn't a design kind of exercise. Like, does A or B look better? And it's just our opinion. There's just like some of those fundamental things. And so I think some of that, because it's still, I'm looking on there now on the resources page. And I know you've been handed a page that I think is a template that maybe Galen implemented or something, and he was just trying to get something out. So I acknowledge it's not like you didn't design this page. Like, it's not your page, right? You're trying to fix it up. So, I just wanted to make sure that we didn't steer too far down wholesale redesign and that we had a chance to lock in on what the design system is going to be, closer probably to what we have now than something completely different. And I know some of those modules that you have on there, they're pretty radical departures from what's on the site now. And so we have to make a design decision about that. I understand that. But I just want to try to keep this thing kind of focused and make sure, because you guys are experts on this stuff, and a lot of those modules, like I said, they could be pretty radical departures from what we've done before, and it's a little bit tough on our side to balance we want it to perform versus it looks and feels like on brand with us, and that's a tension we always have on our side. It's always like what works pushes against what we want to communicate, so we totally understand that. But I guess to kind of sum it all up, I want to make sure that we try to stay focused on getting as quickly to this site on HubSpot with the components that the modules that you've identified are the ones that work. And we gave, picked kind of the ones we liked from the design direction, and not go too far down the design path more than necessary, because we can come back later and go through that. But I think the more we push towards redesign, the more picky we're going to be and the more time we're going to want to spend on working through it. And, we've, one of our colleagues designed this site originally who we went to grad school with. And, it was one of my design program at grad. We were on the same wavelength. We kind of understand each other. It's not totally fair to you to be this way, but we are really, really, really high standard picky. And so little things kind of make us skittish and nervous. And so I don't want to scrap what we're doing or anything. I just want to like reprioritize to make sure we're, if it's like, if these are the 8 modules on that homepage we need to use, let's just reference the site we have now, because that'll be the easiest way to not make us nitpick every little detail. Because if we can just, what's the closest version of these modules that match our, let's just get that done and get this site up. Then we can come back around and like, oh, there's this cool animation, or let's replace this with a video, like that kind of stuff. And I think some of the design concepts that we saw with the color sequences and stuff, like it's not close. And I don't want to, like, we can have a lot of conversation, I don't want to spend weeks trying to communicate and direct on that, because it's going more towards big redesign versus like, let's just use what we've got. Let's get this thing in there. The modules that you guys picked are great. You gave us good examples of different styles. We debated like, ooh, we hate that, we love that. Like, okay, that's what we need, right? We need to see that, like, if you're going to put a testimonial out, like we like the testimonial, like, none of these really work for us, and that's good. And then like all the other ones, this one's great. We don't like that. So anyway, I'll stop babbling on here, but like that's kind of where we're at. I just want to keep us focused, and just get us to success. And then, so I'll let you respond and defend and do whatever you want to say at this point. So.
No worries at all. First of all, I'm so glad that we have this meeting, because I do relate to what you're saying. Like, defending will come after, but honestly speaking, I do understand what you're trying to convey, and I genuinely like with you. So that's like the first point, and I'm glad that I heard it, because now we can also plan accordingly. Now we know so a lot more details. So I think this is very important details for us. I will go to point by point. I have taken some notes out of all the frustration that you have shared, and I think these are all valid, as I was referring to. So I will start with the timeline. I think 2 things that you mentioned. Number one is you have a rough, tight timeline that you want to move the website to HubSpot. That's a very fair point. Secondary is you don't have, first of all, I think any business owner or any decision maker should be picky about the brand colors. And of course, like, you should be, if you are not picky, then there's an issue. I would also love to see that you are very picky with the design, colors, animation style, because that's going to help you, to make the website stand out in a lot of websites. So this is absolutely helpful. This is nothing bad. I'm pretty sure this is all good. But I think I do understand.
The one thing I'd like to just add on that, because it's the part of the reason there's a couple reasons why we're extra picky. One is that we have backgrounds in design. We like, we've done a lot of this at a pretty high level for a long time. We've worked with like some really top tier people. But the other piece of it is this is especially sensitive for Carrie, because it's her name on the door, right? It's like, it's not just like, I know we're talking about changing it to Bodine and Co. versus Carrie Bodine, but like, it's like, she is the product, she is the brand. And so, if she walked into a meeting, in an ugly t-shirt and sweatpants, like, that's not going to present well to the client versus, like, it's just, so it's extra sensitive because it's her as the product, not just kind of it's not like Microsoft, like nobody knows who Microsoft really is, but so that's part of it. So I'll let you continue, but I just want to add that.
Absolutely, I do agree with you. And also, Kerry works in customer experiences. I think the part of our day-to-day job is how we are treating customers, right? And website is a very part of. So of course, your website is gonna be the reflection of not just identity about the service. So absolutely, absolutely, yeah. That makes sense. Right. That does make it extra sensitive. Now I understand.
Yeah.
So I was saying that timeline is a very good point. You were also saying that I think there are some of the work which might made you frustrated about the details that you're referring, but it's also that I'm just trying to repeating so far what we have understood, and then I'll go to the details. Is designing a website is also kind of mental headache at this moment. That's what you're trying to say, because you're picky, you want to make Either we want to make a very good one, or rather we keep the original existing one. That's also better, right? That's what we're trying to say, because we do want to make a very good one or nothing. That's a good point I have picked as well. From my point of view, though, what we have done so far is we have analyzed, like when I started talking with Kiri, we started discussing the recent changes that is very important that they have to make without going to the website planning. And I understand the importance of it, so we had to do it. So that's also very important part, that why the timeline is very shifting. And I am pretty sure that you know it, so I'm not gonna explain that part. But the main point is, for example, let's discuss the first option that you said, and then the second option we'll discuss as well. The first option you were saying, so for example, we move the existing existing site to HubSpot, and then we improve as well. But the problem with that policy is, for example, you are building the whole system in HubSpot, and then if you're changing it, that's basically means you are redoing the whole work. And I'm pretty sure you're also technologically aware. You understand that if we build it, it's going to be changes. It might not be the same details that is very important for you. Those kind of details might be overlooked if you already build it and then maybe change one by one, because it might not have the same consistent flow from the home page to all the sub pages. It might not have the same module. Also, you might want to make the very seamless experience in every page from header to footer. Like that's very fast. Like if because that doesn't really make sense from a financial point of view, from a cost point of view, from a development point of view. That is like the obvious point. The secondary point is, even the majority of the work is already done in terms of the poll, in terms of researching down. We have already designed the sitemap. The team, I've also worked for the sitemap as well, is how we can make a wonderful value, and we have really found out a lot of insightful data to show that we want to build those pages that actually will generate really good growth opportunity for you. I'm pretty sure that you would also agree with that. But I think the point that you are trying to say in terms of design, and that is where I think my important point is, having option number one, we can follow your exact design system. That's okay for us. But if we follow your exact design system, colors, fonts, we can also creatively design a lot of modules. That option we have. It's not that we cannot do that. I think that could be our option one. No problem at all. I understand the design principles that you want to follow. That's completely understandable. And you have a good colors as well. It's not that something is bad, you have to change. I'm not sure that you have complained there is a color problem on the website. That was not your complaint. That was not our complaint as well. Because of the previous workload of the development team work, and they missed a lot of issues that you said, because by default they are not designer as well, and you are very aware because the development team work. So that is option number one. We can follow the design principle you have and then make something that actually looks attractive to you as a module point of view, as a layout point of view. Option number two, the current stage that we are in, Heaven, is right now what we have been doing is we have been building we have been analyzing the design principles you have and maybe preparing some options for the design principle. It doesn't have to be rebranding, because it is not actually rebranding. It's just website changes that could complement your color, complement the font and everything that actually the team was actually working on. Once that is locked in, I understand that you will be very picky, of course, but you can of course comment and say that we don't like the design system that you recommended. We want to go the option one. Option one is we already analyzed the design system that you have and already brought everything on the Figma and then organized everything. We can follow the same principle, apply to the interaction animation that we are planning. That should be good to go. The point also here is, like, we are almost 2 to 3 weeks away in terms of completing the design, because the homework is done, the data is done. We have also planned everything. The first, even so, for example, once you approve the home page based on the design principle, which should be done by this week, the development team would actually pick up the design and then develop it. Because the planning is being done, the design team, as you are also a kind of designer, so you understand that designer would plan the design system for the entire website. They know which kind of modules and contents they're planning, so they'll be able to replicate it in all the other pages they're thinking as well. Whereas developer would just follow it. They're not gonna develop anything. They'll just follow the designer's principles and develop anything. That is why It doesn't have to be because of the timeline pressure that you have. So this is why I'm saying that we can also constantly simultaneously develop both of these. It doesn't have to be okay, we think about the design 1 month and then develop it and then developers fix it. That doesn't have to be. We can simultaneously do it as well, following either your design principle or our design principle, because right now it's not going to happen. So for example, we are also not going to say, okay, this is the design we have done, you like it or not. Of course we'll take the feedback, but we'll also putting more version of the homepage of the as well. So for example, you will have multiple design system too. Maybe you will also see two home pages where you can see the modules that are either similar or maybe creatively presented based on our input. So you can pick, okay, I will go hero section of this Figma one, I will go the review section of the Figma 2. I don't like any of this, I can go with the existing website that we have, option 3. So we can do this combination permutation in order to make sure that it really follows the design principle you have, or at least from a point that it is improving. If it's not improving, we shouldn't do that. I completely understand and agree with you, absolutely, from that point of view. But I think what my request would be is, if you at least let us try, because we have already completed 70 to 80% of our work. It's just our time to present some of the design and be very picky, no problem at all. But at least if you allow us that 2 to 3 weeks of time, we'll be able to replicate, and the development team would pick it very fast. Like within 2 to 3 weeks, you will see the live development. Absolutely, because we made the team available and we know the priority of the Kiribati has. So absolutely, we have made sure that okay, everyone will be synced at that. Like this is our
Okay, yeah, and like I don't want to disrespect the timeline that you put together based on how you scoped the project originally with Carrie, and so anything I was saying that was pushing you to deliver sooner, apologies if that was communicated that way. I think my bigger, I understand you have a process, and I understand. I think my biggest concern is just to make sure that we don't go too far down a design path that is significantly redesigning versus using what we have, just because I think like conceptually that's probably something Carrie would like to do, is like, let me just rethink this whole thing. And I think we don't have the luxury of going that direction right now.
I agree with you.
And I acknowledge that a lot of these modules they just don't match like what we have on the site now. I think some do. I think some of them, like, the little, little card-based thing. It's like we can just use the card style that we have. We don't have to go too far off path, because because we're not redesigning the whole site. There are going to be other pages on the site that probably won't change a whole lot, and we need these things to match, right? So it's going to have to be some sort of merger between what we have and what's new.
Okay.
But I think I want to, I just don't want to go too far down big redesign. Let's lean towards it. But I guess I also want to make sure that somebody's paying attention to those little details, if there's it's like there are little things that stand out that make it really obvious that, are not necessary. I think it's like, for me, it's like squished images, drop shadows, and rounded corners, like in colors, like those are pretty basic. But like when you deviate even a little bit, like if there's not like a really compelling reason to do so, it really stands out, and so
I think these are fundamental. Like
they're fundamental things. We don't need to waste a lot of time on like, let's rethink what drop shadows, how they work on the whole site. It's sort of like that could be an exercise worth doing at some point. I just don't think it's worth doing that now. And that's just, like an example, or, but so if my intention was not to radically disrupt your process, because that's already been kind of agreed to, and I know you're working through it, but I do want to rein in the design part, because I think some of the design stuff is just not resonating right now. And, some of it is like, a little bit basic and kind of a little bit makes me nervous, and other things are us being way, way, way too picky. So I understand there's a middle ground there, that we can work with. So whatever we can do to stick with your process and your approach, I respect that and I want to do that. But I would just ask, like, let's rein it in a little bit and make sure we're not going like, because when I'm looking at a couple of those comps with the green and the pink, it's just like there are some times where it's like, I don't know yet. It's going to take me time to figure out how to communicate to you why that's off and not working. Because it's a deviation from what we have. Like if you took that first the top module on the homepage concept, there was one that was like the light green and the light pink, right? Like that's a pretty radical departure from what we have and doesn't match anything. It'd be better off if you just use the green that we have as a rich green or a rich blue, drop that in there with our font, and if it's like, oh, you need to make it a bigger font, or use the sans serif version versus the serif version because that's going to pop more, but it's still your thing. Like it's easier to make quick decisions like that. Like even I could just say like, you know what, that's good enough for now. We could, I'm not going to nitpick you on that kind of thing. But when you come in with this, like, these other kind of colors that just they're just too far off, then I have to pause and like, okay, now I have to think about how is this whole page going to mesh up with what we've got. And now you're scratching our picky itch. Like if you go there, then we're going to push back more, and it's going to take us more time to rethink and figure out how do we communicate to you what we want to do that feels on brand but is different than anything we've done before, versus stay closer to what we've done, because it'll be easier to just pick it off. And you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
And I want to honestly acknowledge one thing as well is when we discussed, you were the first call, but then on the second call, I forgot to invite. But honestly speaking, we haven't recommended any branding, redesign as well. From a content perspective, we have seen a lot of opportunity, and that is why we said, let's add more content, let's add more pages.
Yeah.
It's valuable for us. So that was like the fundamental point. And honestly, my team hasn't. Have we presented any design to Heaven yet, or maybe haven't seen the options for the layout that we presented?
So basically, we have presented some options for the visual, or what the design could be, and what are the option or what type of design we can introduce to the new website.
Got it. So I think Heaven, the colors that you have seen in the hero section, it would not be your color, absolutely. These are some layouts that we have copied from other websites to just share the inspiration, not colors, not fonts, just the layout of what we're thinking.
Yeah, and I think, we went through the previous Figma comp where there were options of like, here's what a hero could look like, here's what a testimony. Like we went through that, and like that was great because there were some that we picked. We were like, this works. Some that we didn't like, and that's totally fine. Like we need to see the spectrum.
Exactly.
100% on board with that. There were, I think, 2 of them where we were just like, we don't like any of these, so, and at 2 out of like 12 or 15, it's fine. Like that process was totally fine, I think. And so, now we're working with the directions that we chose kind of all stacked up so we can kind of see what a whole page looks like. Totally get it. And I saw that, they've gone in and swapped out some of our images for the ones that were like from the design comps from the other websites. So totally fine. I think now it's kind of like, I don't want to, it's a challenge, I guess, for us to figure out how can we not wander too far off into a whole, we need to think about totally new concepts for this design that we've never thought about before, which is not necessarily a bad thing. It's just kind of out of scope for what we want to accomplish here right now.
Makes sense.
But also acknowledge that we have a design system that we can reference, but it also doesn't match up with everything you've got with these whole new modules, right? We understand that. Like there's just new stuff in here,
Sorry to interfere. I think your design system would be applicable, can be applied to the new design. It just some of the modules has to be designed creatively. Some of the modules might be like has to be changed, but the colors, the fonts, the spacing, the padding, the buttons, the curves, I think it should absolutely be applied the new design we can do.
I think that, for the sake of speed, if we, I don't want to like tell you don't do what you do, right? But leaning a little bit more towards how we handle things on the current site. And then, if it's like the hero image should be like a rich color, not white. Cause like I noticed, I think we all
Exactly.
acknowledge if you look at the comp, it's just like white, 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 white. Like it's pretty obvious to us, even when we see the whole, like when you look at the whole page in one image, in your screen, you're like, that's like any one component, could look fine. But when you see them all stacked and they're all like, it's not going to be interesting. Like you don't have any, bigger color breaks or something. So that's fine. But I think that it might be faster to lean a little bit more on the system that we have on the current site. If you feel like, every one, 2 or 3 modules, we need to like swap at some pop of color, use what we've got as kind of the default. But if then like once that's there, it's like, oh, this really kind of fits with our site. If you feel strongly that we've done this in your big green thing, but we think that like, we're showing you this, but we think that you might be better off if you considered this something in this direction, we can certainly talk at that point. But I think it kind of feels like everything's going to be new, and it's going to be harder for us to figure out how new will integrate with existing, because we're not like in the mindset to really redesign the whole site. Do you know what I mean? So I think if you disagree with that, I'm open to hearing it. I think it's just leaning a little bit more towards the style we have and applying it. You can apply it boldly, that's fine, but it's just like, don't come up with some new shade of color or something. Like just use the one we've got, like make that work, and then make an argument if you think it should be something different.
Exactly,
But
absolutely.
it's easier for us to say like,
exactly.
If we're going to go down a path where we have to decide good enough versus great, I'd rather good enough be closer to what we already have versus something totally new. Does that make sense?
I want to ensure again, I totally get what you're saying.
Okay.
No worries at all. No worries at all. How about, I have a quick question. You said good enough and great, you would pick good enough. I understand. But what about like, not about colors though, like some of the modules, exceptional, what about wonderful? Like, would that replace that good enough, I guess, like, or no?
Yeah, I think, yeah, absolutely. I mean, if that's possible, we're all for it. But
I just try to understand the theory. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's knowing how picky we're going to be about it. The more it deviates from what we already have, the more thought we have to put into responding, giving direction. So it'll be more work for us to figure out how to incorporate it, and we're going to push back way harder if we're going that way. And I don't think like that wasn't quite what we intended in this portion of the project we engaged with you, which is not to say we're not open. It's just like you're going to push us into a zone where we're not opposed to it, but it's going to be a lot harder on all of us to like get through that, because we're going to be very picky about what we do. And I'd rather find the way that will let you adhere to your timeline and process as much as possible, but still not deviate too much from what we have and get us onto this new platform. Because the real objective here is to get the site on HubSpot so it'll perform better, and so Galen can implement all the things he wants, and we can work with you to get these things optimized and get the SEO. Like there's a lot of performance stuff that the site needs, because you already know how bad, like, some of that underneath, some of the fundamentals are on the performance side. So I just want to keep us focused and not deviate and too
Got it.
much,
Yeah,
sorry, I want to postpone the more radical departures until a little bit later, right?
exactly.
I'd rather not spend 2 weeks going back and forth with you on the hero module when we could
Exactly.
do something that it's going to be easier if it's something close to what we have. And then at the end, we can come back and say, well, we've got some bold ideas for you for the hero. Then we can go at it. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Because I think it feels like we're kind of going down the path of like, let's explore all the options for how this can go. And, I'm looking at some of the iterations of the page and just like, no, 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 stop, stop, stop. It's like, this is not, we can't afford to go there because what I know is that the amount of pushback and iteration it's going to take is going to push off the timelines because we're going to be picky and you're going to not understand and we're going to have to communicate and we're going to go back and forth. And it's like,
Got
just,
it.
with some of those tweaks to the pages that were already in HubSpot, like, I think in my mind, that's like, that's a couple days worth of work. There's not much to discuss there. It's like shadows, corners, colors, like image dimension. That's all like should be easy. And I think the fact that we had to go a couple rounds there, I'm just like, okay, if we're going to keep going this direction, the timeline will extend the more we deviate from the design because that's not where we, I think, came into this right at the beginning. It was kind of like, let's get this site over, but we know there are these modules that are new and perform better. And we got to figure out how to balance how do we make it bold, exciting, exceptional, but not redesign the site,
I think what you said can be applied to according to our process as well. Like it doesn't um, completely deviate from our process as well. It's completely understandable where you're coming from. Tanmay, do you want to add any point here?
No, I think what Heaven said, it makes sense, and I understand Heaven's point of view more clearly right now. So I think what we can do, Heaven, is let's say in next couple of days, what we can do, we can create a design system of your current website, and based on that, we can create a version, keeping the look and feel as the current website, but adding some of the things. Because what we have done so far is we have done the research, and our content team and our AU team also done some research, and they have found that we can improve the performance of the website based on the AU and SEO greatly. And I think we can add those couple of things into the website, and maybe really quick we can create a version with your design system, your current website design system, and then you can have a look, you can nitpick as much as you want, and I think that version will get us into a same page.
Okay. Yeah. And I think, like I said, you've done other work with other clients on this stuff. We've seen examples of things you've implemented that are, different than anything we have on our site. And that they perform. And like they're obviously like SEO, like is just start from scratch almost based on what we have now. Like that's understood. And so I don't want to take away from your capabilities and experience, right? I understand that. And so I think that what you said kind of aligns with what my intention maybe was, like if building a design system off of our current site is a radical departure from what you were planning to do, then let's discuss that because I don't want to totally disrupt the project timeline too much. If there's some amount of that makes sense where you're probably going to do some of that anyway, and it's just like there are, I think if I look through a lot of those modules, like there's probably several that just use the existing, it's not going to make a big difference, but you might know that others are that module may not even really be recognizable to us about how big a deal it is to be different, and in those cases, like, we want to talk about it, but I think, like, if capturing the existing design system, leveraging that for the majority of the pieces, applying it even in bold ways. We have some rich colors on there, like, let's try it with that. If you think like that color's not bold enough, or we don't need a color here, we need this big massive image, then we can talk about it. I think, the more we go down the imagery path or video, it's like, I think even when we were going through all the original ideas, concepts, we're like, that's a really cool idea, but we don't have the assets for it right now. And so some of the choices we made, we might have said, we like this other one better, but we can't fulfill it at this point. Anytime in the next 6 months, we're not going to be able to get you what you need. So we picked one that was like, this is something we feel like we can deliver on. It still probably accomplishes it, maybe not as well as the others, but so is that I think that if capturing the existing system is something you were going to do anyway, and you just have to figure out how to apply or enhance it a little bit, I think that will keep us on track. But err on the side of just kind of going in the direction of what we have, because the more you deviate, the more we have to push back and really like haggle about it, because we're going to be picky. So does that make sense?
Yeah, totally makes sense. And I would like to mention one thing. So don't worry about the final design that or development that we'll be doing from the Figma file, because in that case, everything that you see in Figma will be transferred pixel by pixel into the website. So that would be the pixel perfect design, because we'll be
Sure.
copying everything over from the Figma file to the website. In that case or that scenario, these kind of deviations was not going to happen. That I can guarantee you.
Okay. Yeah. No, that's understood. I trust you on that. I'm not disputing your skills at what you do or anything. I think the one piece where we have our own skills and preferences is on the design side, based on our background and our taste, is just, that's the hardest one. Like, you could build a site like 100 times over, and like, when it comes to taste, it's just feeling in a way, so it's like, it's hard. I get it, but I don't want to diminish or discredit any of your capabilities or skills. That we hired you for a reason, and like, we respect that, and I want to try to stick to it. I just want to keep us on track and not deviate, because I kind of know where that could end up, and it'll take us off course if we go too far off. So whatever we can do to lean back a little bit would be, I think, helpful. But I don't want to like disrupt the timeline and the process too much either. So, and I don't want to tell you to deliver the site 4 weeks earlier than we already agreed to. I think part of what I was saying was like, if we're going down that path, let's just pause. What if you just use what we've got? Maybe it'll go faster. I don't like, I didn't mean to imply that I expected that. I just thought that, like, if we just cool down the new design stuff, let's get the existing, maybe it'll go quicker, but not a requirement. So if I scared you on that front, I apologize. That was not my intention. But I don't want to change the scope significantly of what we already planned on. I just want to keep things focused.
Absolutely. So I'll be so for the next version or next Figma file, we'll try to keep the DNA as it is of the website. We'll be using your design language, and based on that, let's create a Figma. I'll be sharing you the Figma file before the call, so that you can make some comment there, and maybe I hope that will bring us to the same page regarding the design languages.
That makes total sense. And in those cases where you feel like what you've applied is not quite enough, or it doesn't quite capture what that module is supposed to accomplish, and you feel like there's something bolder or different that needs to happen, then let's talk about that. Because I think before you spend too much time trying to go that way. Help us understand what is it about the current
Exactly.
system that doesn't accommodate what you're recommending, and let us help guide you into a design that might fit, versus wandering off just because I don't want to extend the timeline. We're picky. Well, yeah, I've already told you all this, so you kind of know. But I think we can help you in those. I don't want you to hold back when you feel like we implemented this the way your site would do it, but there's something else you need to know about this that is not enough. Then let's talk. Like that's super helpful for us, because then we can guide you into how do we accomplish that in a way that fits the brand, but also accomplishes what your expertise tells us we need to accomplish.
Got it, sir.
Makes sense. So as a call to action though, for this week call, like based on today's discussion, based on today's understanding, can we have the call maybe either Thursday or Friday? Because today is Thursday, exactly. So maybe we get 2 days to prepare something based on at least today's understanding, because I want to make sure that my team is also onboarded with the idea that you just shared, and I want to make sure that we follow the same principle in the team as well.
Yeah, you are entitled to take the time you need based on what we talked about today, because that's not fair to you to try to get this done by tomorrow. Like but yeah, totally. We're working together on this. We're a team. Like I'm with you. So just why don't you take a day? Like let's cancel the call for tomorrow, and we'll just put a note out. Like we'll get back to me. Like take a day or two.
That's better.
Figure out what you need. If it's like, oh, we think we can do this by Thursday, great. If it's Friday, great. If you like really feel compelled, like if we could just wait till next week's call and do it then, we can get a lot more done, fine. So just don't make a decision now. Why don't you think about it, get a chance to talk internally, and also know that we're totally fine with works in progress. Like if you're saying like, here's this thing we have,
exactly.
We're not 100% happy with it right now, but we wanted to show you where we are. Like at least I am a designer. I've been there. I've done it. I know what it's like when it's like, do you have to show something 50% done? Like as long as you say it's 50% done and I'm not done,
exactly. That's amazing.
I'm not gonna hold you to, like, I get it. Like I've been there 100 times, 1,000 times. I've done it, and I know it's nerve wracking to show something before it's ready.
Yeah, you wouldn't believe. I exactly told the same sentences when a design that comes from a designer, which is not, I don't like, but I wish he would have said that, bro, it's not final. It's just the 20% what I imagine. Give me more time and I can, make it wonderful. Exactly the same point of view, because maybe he was imagining something else, but sometimes it's very hard to go to that imagination directly. Sometimes we iterate and try to find out, the perfection. Exactly.
Right.
Totally.
Or just nudge a little bit this direction. If you're like, I'm not sure I want to go, it's like, oh, go that way a little bit, and like, just keep going. I will. Because I've done it before many times throughout my career, I can respect it and then know, like, as long as you're up front, like we're not presenting you, this is a kind of an interim check-in, not what we intended to show you as like,
exactly.
It's all feedback the whole time, right? But if it's, you're not quite there, I get it. It's fine. I'll respect that. I know what it's like. So, but take a couple days, whatever you need to decide when is it appropriate. I don't want you to. This is kind of like a bit of a reset in a way, and giving you a little more feedback on how we work and what's going to. So, take a little time to just sort that out. I'm not going to like hold you to a call this week, or it has to be by tomorrow or whatever. You tell me. We'll figure it out. We'll accommodate it.
Got it, sir.
Great. I kept you a little bit too long, so thanks for the extra time.
No worries at all.
Okay. Anything else you need from me, or?
No, I think all good. I'm once again very glad that I was able to hear this is from directly, because now I feel more confident that we can make something that will actually satisfy the need that you have, because sometimes identifying that need is the most difficult job, because satisfaction varies to person. We were imagining something very, so now we know that we can be at least, we have the same, the chance to be on the same page. So very glad that we had the call. Thank you for your time here today.
Of course, and acknowledging that we're kind of like, we've changed up the lead person on you in this process, and like at some point Carrie will probably come back into this as well. So we'll do our best to make sure that we maintain some more consistency, to make sure that the person you're interacting with that's going to be picky is, not, change everything. I want it different. Like you can't work that way. I understand. So.
I think that's a valuable point, because I do feel like it is very hard for some time for us to learn something new with working some brilliant clients as well. For this project, I think we'll be able to learn something from you, because you have the massive experience. My team will be able to get those insights that you're sharing. So I think this is a very good chance, even for me, for my team as well.
That's great. I appreciate that. And we're learning a ton from what you guys do. Like we know, like I think we had an idea of the limitations of the website, and I know I've worked at like big marketing agencies and stuff, and so I kind of like, as you talk, I'm like, yeah, our SEO is really not there, but some of the mechanics are like, I was a strategist, not like implementing, and so there's like, and I worked with the people that I worked for a company that was like brilliant at SEO, one of the biggest agencies that did it, but I didn't do like, I could work with those people, and I'm like, wow, like I get it. But so when I hear you, I'm like, okay, I get it. We're learning from you as well, so it's mutual.
Thank you so much.
Okay, I'll let you go.
Yeah, we'll update you tomorrow. As you said, we'll also get the message in the Slack as well. We're internally reviewing and everything. Back to you with the time. So far, so good. Thank you for your time. Have a great rest of your day.
Okay,
thank you for meeting in the meeting early today.
No problem. Okay. Thanks, guys. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.